Welcome, everybody. We are here at SNES Super Stars, and we are celebrating all kinds of games from the Super Nintendo Entertainment System and the Super Famicom. It's been an awesome time so far. I've enjoyed quite a few runs. Everyone, shout out your favorite run that you've seen so far. Right now, we have Super Castlevania 4, but we're playing it whip only, so we're not going to be picking up any sub weapons along the way. That's pretty much the only restriction. Still going to grab meats, still are able to grab rosaries and potions, but no sub weapons unless you have, no sub weapons, period. We're going to see if the runners are ready. And we will get this race going because there's a lot to talk about. And, well, I know we've got some time to kill, maybe. We're a little ahead of schedule, but I can talk about this game on end. So, Kenshin Trek. Kenshin Trek has a PB in whip only of 3709. And Anduin has a PB. Current world record holder of the category is 3531. The 3531 is a very impressive time. All right, we're going to get these racers started up here. Probably be about 30 seconds or so before they get going. This category, compared to any percent, is... It feels very pure. I guess that's like the best word that I can use to describe it. It's very, very movement heavy. You want to be moving as efficiently as possible as you're going through. And I mean, you could say that too about the other categories, but it really feels like, since you're not worrying about picking up hearts, picking up all these candles, positioning yourself to get your cross to hit the right things, you're just going forward and trying to take things out. That sync looks pretty good here. So a couple optimizations that you're always going to see in a whip only run. You really don't want to be picking up any hearts at all, apart from in this first screen where you're trying to get up to your upgraded chain whip. And then after that, you don't really want to pick up any hearts. The big thing there is, at the end of every stage, your hearts count down and it costs you time. And with a category that is maybe not quite as optimized as any percent, it has been whittled down quite a bit in the last couple of years. I know that there's a few runners, Aramis Belmont in particular, shoutouts. He really does not like the cross. The cross is very powerful, and not to say that it makes the run boring, but enemies are very trivial, bosses are incredibly trivial. So yeah, we're seeing both runners making their way through stage 1. Looks like Anduin just decided to boost through the bone pillar there, and Kenshin killed it. Yeah, Kenshin took a little bit of extra damage. Look, okay, yeah, Kenshin's gonna walk through the bone pillar. That bone pillar is quite difficult. You need pass level inputs to be able to kill it without losing any forward momentum. With the mechanics of this game and the whip, if you're standing on the ground and whipping, you just stop moving entirely until your whip has been retracted. But if you jump and you throw your whip, then things work out pretty well. You don't really lose any forward momentum at all. And there is something that you can do called whip canceling, which I know both these runners, they don't really focus on it too much. It doesn't help you that much during the levels, but on the bosses, it can really gain you an advantage because you're not relying on the crosses to do all the work for you. So we're going to see Anduin coming into the boss of stage 1 a little bit ahead. Going to be 5 hits on the horse to take it down. And then another 5 hits on Rodane for him to explode. And one last pièce de résistance. So Kenshin got lucky. Rodane didn't jump. And so he actually caught up quite a bit with Anduin. That's the worst thing that you can see in a whip-only run or a low percent run. You know, a sub-weaponless run, basically. Because, yeah, he jumps, he's out of your range, you gotta chase him down. You might get lucky and, like, hit him mid-air so that you can control where he is. But there's oh man, Kenshin getting harassed by these purple hands. Yikes. And the worst part about the purple hands, if you hold right, you can kind of get like repeatable, consistent patterns on the hands. Like it's not perfect, but as soon as the first one grabs you, then any hope of having them show up and give you like manageable patterns just goes out the window. But this section, it's just trying to reduce as much lag as you can. Like these green bush monsters, you kind of want to kill them as soon as you can, so that they're not on screen with as many sprites after the other enemies spawn in. Sprog Anduin's coming up on. Yeah, it's pretty tough. Luckily, in this category, even a limp whip is enough to kill the frogs and the birds. Not the bats, unfortunately, but... So, Medusa, which is where Anduin is heading to. Medusa is a real gatekeeper, especially if you're pushing for a good PB. You just want to stand there and whip Medusa as much as you can. You're basically just tanking all the hits. And sometimes Medusa will just kind of hover right near the spawn point. Did really good there for Anduin. He only took 1 boost. See what Kenshin gets on Medusa. Yeah, Kenshin's getting... Oh. Luckily, he didn't take a 4th hit. And that's the variance with Medusa. Medusa charged Kenshin, and because of that, he got knocked back once. You lose the ability to deal damage during that knockback. And then he got knocked behind Medusa. And that's just really tricky, because you have to... Sometimes you get turned around when you get damage boosted. And so you got to make sure that you're facing the right way. So last little bit of stage 2 here, we get our awesome bass track going again. And now Anduin's making his way into stage 3. Stage 3 is very long. There's a lot going on. But you can rely on most of your any percent strats, except for these bone pillars. You have to be creative. You want to try and get your through whips in. With the least amount of time being stuck to the ground. I like what Kenshin did there with jumps in his whips. Just to be able to get a little bit of horizontal movement after you've thrown your whip. It looks like Mudmen are being really nice to both. Kenshin with that clutch last turnaround. So yeah, Anduin only down 2 damage, or 2 hits, so 6 pips. And Kenshin's got a really nice health collection for the rest of stage 3. There are some schools of thought of taking an intentional death, which is kind of a holdover from low percent strategies, either at the beginning of 3-2 or 3-3. I'm not a big fan of it, but depending on how low your health is for a race situation, it is a viable strat to keep on the table. Okay, now past the waterfall into the sunken city, these vicious fishes just like to jump right out in front of you every single time. Anduin going for the eyeball boost. Nice. Nails it. Health's a little low, but he does have 7 health, so he will be able to take 2 hits before he dies. Whether he saves some for the boss as a safety or not, we'll have to see. Kenshin hits eyeball boost as well. That's really nice. Yeah, Kenshin choosing to go underneath that Bone Dragon. I really like that strat. It's nice and safe. It's a little bit slower than boosting over top of it, but the chances of death are a lot lower for mistakes that might show up. Anduin getting the jump over the snake into the ring, but yeah, I think he pressed the wrong direction on the D-pad. It's a little bit confusing because one direction will extend your whip, one will contract your whip, and it doesn't quite feel right. Kenshin threading the needle. Makes it through. Good. So this boss, it might seem very difficult for like a whip-only, a sub-weaponless category, but once you realize that the dragons move, the vipers, pardon, they move exactly the same every time, you can plan your whips out and just find what works for you, try to shave the time off as best you can. Anduin had 4 health, so yeah, he saved a little bit of extra safety for the boss. Kenshin has enough health to take a fire blast straight to the face, which can happen, and it will hit you for 4. It's the biggest damage that'll come your way other than the Mudmen early game. But 4 pips is a lot of health for getting hit. Let's see, Anduin is starting stage 4. He had a pretty good boss fight, and he's coming up to the double boss stage with the backwards sounding names. First up is Puexel, speedrunner extraordinaire. Skull with bad breath. Many aliases for this guy. Nice bone boost from Kenshin. I love that strategy. It's a little bit slower, but at the same time, it's very consistent and race safe. So Puexel, he spawns in the middle of the screen, and Anduin got best luck possible. You want Puexel to move above you as soon as possible in that fight, so that when you whip up and hit the boss, you'll also take out the projectiles, the Brazil nuts that are falling down on you. Kenshin also gets the good luck. It's a little bit later than ideal, but still good enough to clean up. So I think Anduin's got 1 extra pip on Kenshin. Yeah. Health doesn't really matter that much for the rest of the stage. Unless the next room goes bad, but obviously I shouldn't have said that. I'm going to curse them both. But yeah, nice close race. Both runners are in the rotating room. If you got some H2O or other beverage next to you, this is a perfect spot to take a drink. Relax. It's about the only break that you get during the speed run. Puexel is a great name, and so is Coronat, I agree. So yeah, Puexel backwards is licks you up, and Coronat is a ton of rock. I really love how cheeky the localizations were on early Konami games. Have you ever read through the instruction booklet of Gradius 3? I highly recommend it. Alright, Kenshin heading into the rotating room as well. Anduin was able to pass through this very nicely. So yeah, both runners are doing pretty much the same strat. As long as you move the same way, kind of like the purple hands, but not quite as trolly. As long as you keep your forward momentum, you should have the skeletons popping out of the top of the screen at the same spot every time. And you actually have a little bit of room there too. Anduin just misses the zip. That's unfortunate, and I don't think Kenshin knows he missed the jump, so it's not going to happen anyway. I don't think he knows the cross of the zip. Normally you need a cross to get rid of the bat. That would knock you out of the zip. Like what happened with Anduin there. It's unfortunate. Keeping things close. And there's worse fates than getting knocked out of the zip. He could have died. Although in whip only, deaths are not nearly as punishing, which is why the death intentional death strat that I mentioned earlier is viable. The only thing you're really losing out on is a little bit of time for your death and respawn, and then the extra hearts and the power up. So Anduin taking down Cornot. This is a tricky fight in whip only. Anduin. Okay. You've got to pay attention to how Cornot's acting. You can kind of get a sense of when he's going to jump, because he's most likely to jump after you hit him. It's not always the case, but if you hit him once and he hasn't jumped in a while, then you can kind of assume he's going to jump and try and whip upwards. Sometimes you still miss, but there's a lot to this boss and how he chooses his moves. Okay, stage 5 is a little scary. These harpies will come out of nowhere, and something that I haven't touched on yet is a candle cancel. And it's just about where the game is going to decide to have it happen to you. A candle cancel is where you hit an enemy and a candle at the same time, and the game just decides that you only hit one of those two things. So if you're ever playing this game and you whip an enemy and you see a money bag drop but the enemy doesn't die, that's why you hit the candle at the same time and the game just decided to eat your damage. Oh, that's a really bad harpy spawn for Kenshin. Anduin was perfect with his health routing, and it looks like Kenshin's right on track as well. This last whip skeleton is a little bit scary, but generally you're going to be okay. All right, so Castlevania 1 starts. We've made our way into the castle. Enemies now have more health, and everything just in general is a little bit more difficult. You don't really notice the health difference too much, except for like most enemies now requiring 2 hits. It's a lot more noticeable if you're playing a category like low percent. Alright, so Anduin, I think he might be going for a 1-cycle chandelier. Let's see what he gives us today. I wouldn't fault him for taking things safe. Okay, going pretty good so far. Anduin's practiced this quite a bit. Looks like he's going for the comfy 2-cycle. I'm not sure if that was on purpose. And I think Kenshin is going to go for a comfy 3-cycle. Yeah, it was hard to tell if it was on purpose or not. The last ring swing, the one that Kenshin's on right now, if you let go early and neutral your D-pad, you can kind of clip into the platform and jump sooner. And it gives you quite a bit more time to make your 1-cycle compared to the way that it was done about 10 years ago. This screen is my least favorite screen in the entire game. There's so many enemies, and they move in weird ways. And those ghost ladies, you have to take them out. They will harass you nonstop if you just try to go past them. Okay, Anduin on the second part of 6-2. Yeah, this skeleton, perfect. The skeleton is a bit of a jerk in whip only. You can't time your crosses, and it's very easy to get candle canceled, like I mentioned. Alright, Anduin is about 1 screen ahead of Kenshin at this point. Oh, very good heads-up play by Kenshin. He stopped after he missed the stairs. You might not realize it, but the spikes there, they are closer than they appear. They are larger in the mirror, so to speak, and they will just destroy you. You'll miss those stairs, and if you don't notice it right away, you're dead. Those very good heads-up play for Kenshin. Can Anduin hit this coffin boost? No. That's a nice safe strat, though. You don't really want to be spending too much time killing a lot of them. You're just going to introduce a lot of lag. Yeah, the room that Kenshin's in right now is actually quite difficult. The Skelly Knights are just very difficult to jump over. So, kind of like the Vipers, this boss will move the same every time. As long as you move the same every time, this boss will kind of like tractor towards you wherever you are, so you can kite him in a certain way and just line it up so you can whip him down as best as you can. Kenshin's a little scary right here. Okay. Yeah, good heads-up play. Better alive than dead. Three whips. Jump down, and now it's perfectly lined up. They're on top of you, and you can whip and take out their projectiles as well. Looks like Anduin's having a little tiny bit of trouble at the beginning of 7-1. I know for a fact that this is Anduin's least favorite screen in the entire game. Picking up the meat just to be safe. Ooh, Kenshin's going to take an extra hit here, yeah. And yeah, he just got very bad luck. Using the crosses in any percent, you can kind of mitigate the luck of that armor knight. Kenshin's health is quite scary. There's actually a school of thought here where Kenshin could skip the meat on this vertical section. Look, he's not going to do that, though. And you can take a death as soon as you hit this next screen because it's a checkpoint. And then you have full health and you're able to do a whole bunch of extra damage boosts. Yeah, Anduin is having a very clean Stage 7. Stage 7's not really that long. It's more of a dense stage than a long one like Stage 3 is. They throw, like, big... I'm not sure. Is it like a pack of bats? Does someone in chat know what a group of bats is called? A murder of bats? No, that's crows. A wing of bats, maybe? Anduin had really good luck on this boss fight. I should have brought a little bit more attention to it as it was happening, but when Greco walks away from you at the beginning of the fight, it's generally going to lead to a bad situation, but Anduin did the smart thing and moving close enough into the range where he wasn't going to do his axe throw and was only going to do either ground pound or move. I do like a Belfry of bats. Let's see what Kenshin gets for the boss. Well, Anduin is making his way through the beginning of Stage 8 with a lot of really fancy damage boosts. Yeah, solid whipping. If you notice, Kenshin kind of stayed as far left as he could there, and that puts you just out of range of the ground pound coming down and hitting you for 3. You can still get hit by the fireballs for 1 damage, but it's not really that scary. You can either tank the damage boost or jump over them. Okay, Anduin going for the meat. Can't really blame him. Got beat up a little bit at the beginning of 8-1. Now that Kenshin's going through 8-1. See if he goes for the eyeball boost. I know Kenshin hypes up the eyeball boost in his head quite a bit. And Anduin is making his way... Yeah, no eyeball boost there. He's making his way to the very end of stage 8. We'll see if he goes for everyone's favorite Vegas Bridge. For whip only, I'm always a big fan of just going for Vegas Bridge, playing as hard as you can until Simon dies. Yeah, no Vegas from Anduin. He's playing it safe. But he still gets Vegased anyway. Yeah, big smile on his face. He knows that that was just complete and utter baloney. Complete and utter baloney. It's gonna give Kenshin a chance to catch up a little bit. A cauldron of bats, that's pretty fun. A colony. That makes sense. I've definitely heard bat and colony at the same time. And when not having the nicest of Vegas Bridge luck. Kenshin's a little farther behind than I thought. Did I miss a death on his screen? He might have just been taking things extra safe. Yeah, there's not really too much to say about this boss for whip only. You want to stand close enough to him that when you whip up, you can take out his projectiles as well as hitting him. If you're going to decide to do whip cancels, you can squeeze in an extra whip and a half, like whip or two in the same time frame, and still take out his projectiles, but it's a little bit more risky. The longer his projectiles are on the screen, the more likely he is to take a step forward. And really, the only thing you're watching out for is if he throws a green potion, which is going to split up into a bunch of fireballs. And those fireballs land based on the position he was in when he threw it. So if you're standing right next to him, generally you can just take one jump back and not get hit. All right. So Kenshin, yeah, he's about a screen and a half behind now. This section is very scary, especially if you get the jumping skeleton. Anduin handled it perfectly. He did roll the dice, though. I'm pretty sure he whipped the candle and got lucky on the candle cancel. I'm a big fan of you lose a little bit of extra time, but if you duck and whip under the candle, you're kind of more guaranteed to hit the enemy. All right, jump over this bone serpent on Anduin's screen, and is he gonna grace us with a whip-only jump? No. You can make that jump, but it is frame perfect, pixel perfect. It's pretty nice. Like, it feels really good when you get that jump. And when coming up on the Diva skeletons, these two skellies, especially without any sub-weapons, they can be a little bit annoying. So Anduin is making his way to Zafbat. Zafbat is another boss where the difference between whip only and any percent is a little bit less because you're not using your crosses for the first part of this fight in any percent anyway. But you've got to do 22 whips on the bat. And when showing off some of the vertical whip cancels, which are different than the horizontal whip cancels, where it's more about where you let go of the button. Like you want to whip and let go of it as soon as you do full damage. Nice low kill, just kind of getting bounced around in the wrong way from the shrapnel falling off the boss. There's a big element of luck in the second phase of Zafbat when you're playing a sub-weaponless category. Because as the pieces fall off and hit you, you're kind of at the whim of which direction the game is going to throw. Let's see how Kenshin handles this. Yeah, Zafbat's just kind of running away from him. Probably going to kill him a little higher. Yeah. Notice Kenshin waited a tiny little bit before he whipped again. Zafbat is always going to kind of move up and down at the same way. So just killing him a little bit lower reduces how the bats are going to move. Although this is not ideal for the second phase. These bats are just staying out of range. I don't blame Kenshin for playing it safe too. At 4 health, that fight can turn around very quickly on you. Let's see, Anduin doing a quick turnaround. Yeah, that didn't feel right. He might have been able to make the jump onto that ring a little bit sooner, but that gear, the cogs kind of push you forward, and it'll set you up a little bit better. Anduin took a giant gear right to the head. So using the jumps and controlling how the camera scrolls, Anduin is going to set himself up. Ooh. Yeah, it's a tough strat, but if you're able to make it, it is very well worth it. Anduin gets a second try on this as well. Nope. All right. Kenshin slow and steady. He's basically just one screen behind again. Yeah, there's a lot of skellies and Medusa heads here. Oh, Anduin went full spaghetti on that whip. That's something that can happen when you're whipping upwards. It's very easy to press left or right on the D-pad, and that's all it takes to turn your whip from a very frightening weapon to a piece of pasta. And then you do, like, no damage, and obviously you don't hook onto the ring either. Very good. So yeah, neither runner got the quick ring ascent, keeping things fair and even. And Anduin's just going to boost past those Richards on the last screen. All right. First spawn is definitely the nice one you want to see. For whip only, if you have perfect whip cancels, you could take down half his health from a right side spawn quite easily. And so that means that an ideal whip only fight is a 2-cycle for Akbadon here. But it looks like we're going to end up with a 3-cycle for Anduin. And Kenshin just gets the worst spawn right off the get-go. As opposed to the right side, the left side, you can wield your spaghetti if you want to do some damage, but you're much better off doing some jumping diagonal fanciness. You're going to get a lot more damage in. So yeah, Kenshin's just getting short end of the stick. You got middle bandages after the worst spawn. And you could almost make an argument that middle bandages is a worse spawn because it has the possibility of killing you. So Anduin is starting on B, heading to the Bat Bridge. Not too much going on here. You want to try and kill some of these bats to reduce lag. But whipping also causes lag, so you don't want to do it too much. It's a fine line, a fancy dance. On this vertical section, this is probably one of my most favorite rooms in whip only. When you're playing any percent, it's this like big rush to pick up as many big hearts as you can, so you have sub-weapon ammo, and the movement is kind of weird and sloppy, but when you're playing whip only, you're just point A to point B as efficiently as you can. It feels really good to play the screen. Yeah, it looks like Kenshin's just choosing not to even attack the bats. Because the whip to jump and whip backwards without losing forward momentum, or like too much forward momentum, is a pretty tough input to make. All right, very nice. Anduin handling all those baddies on the stairs pretty good. He has full health heading into Slogra, so who wants to count how many dashes we see? This boss is the biggest jerk. Not only is he a skeleton, but he's a bird too. Okay. Wow. Slogger being tame so far. It is still a matter of luck. It's more like he won't choose to dash you if you have less health than him. All right, yeah. The other thing with this fight, which kind of sucks, is when you break his weapon after hitting him for, I forget, I think it's like 12 times. Yeah, after you break his weapon, sometimes if he's got a backwards movement, he will slide all the way across the screen, and without your crosses, he's a little out of range of your whip. There you go. So just a few dashes, not too many. Kenshin's having a pretty good fight here too. So this is the second boss, Gaibon. Very nice. That's kind of the ideal fight for Gaibon in whip only. When he moves, if he stops sort of midway or like a quarter of the way from the right side of the screen, then you know that he's going to drop down, and you want to wait to kill him until he's a little bit closer to the ground, because he falls slower than he moves down. See, now got death. Nice timing on the first whip, taking out the sickle. Yeah, this is a beautiful death fight so far. It really is all about your whip timing. Oh, he took that 5 hit. Oh, man. The only thing in the game that hits you for 5 is the giant scythe off death. There we go. A little bit of macaroni and cheese on Kenshin's side. And now we have Anduin. First one heading into Dracula's keep. Now, the Dracula fight in whip only, it's very meat and potatoes. You really want to be cognizant of which cycle you are on, because every 4 cycles you can manipulate where Dracula spawns. He spawns right on top of you every 4 cycles. Another thing that you kind of want to keep an eye out for, depending on where your health is if he's going to give you meat or not. Very nice death kill on Kenshin's side, too. There we go. Nice. So Anduin making use of some vertical horizontal whip cancels. 5. You can get 6 if your timing is absolutely perfect, but 5 is really what you're aiming for. Very nice. Getting Drac down to less than 5 pips before going into the last phase is really good. Just kind of minimizes the time that you spend in the last phase, because you're basically just praying that the lightning doesn't spawn on top of you. You're gonna stand there and whip him, and there it is. Kenshin's nice and healthy, picked up the meat. So Andon's going to get time as soon as he picks up that orb. There it is. 37:38. Awesome time. And Kenshin's looking like he's going to be a mid 38. Plenty of health, so he doesn't need to really worry about this last phase too much. Just stand there and whip. Perfect. Nice. So yeah, he's going to be around a 38, 22, 23, something like that. GG's to both runners. They kept it pretty close. They're less than a minute apart for a 38-minute run. It's always nice to see. Yeah, so this is Super Castlevania 4, whip only. Category that's very, very close to my heart. I love it. Everyone should try it. It gives you less to focus on and more to focus on all at the same time. See if we can maybe pop some runners up and see what they have to say. GG's, guys. That was awesome to watch.
Thank you. Yeah.
GG's to Anwen. A well-deserved win.
I kept trying to go for that fast climb on A that just simply did not want to work today. But and I don't know what happened with Vegas, but that was a good run. I'm happy with that.
I might have commentator cursed you on Vegas. I was bringing it up saying that you have to go for it. And you didn't go for it, and I was like, oh, he's just going to take it safe, and then you're just in the hole.
Yeah, I bet I could have got it actually had I gone for it. So, looking back on it, but it is what it is. Hindsight. It's Vegas. It's going to get you.
On the other hand, let me tell you that I am quite surprised on the fact that even though Anwen died twice and I was deathless, I am quite surprised that I was not able to catch up to him. That must be his solid rank and his overall level. That it's pretty much when you see a person running away from you and you never see him again.
It was the first part of stage 8, I think, was the biggest difference in time for progression.
Yeah, that everything worked out on 8-1, and that's what I was most worried about this entire run was 8-1, but it worked. After that, I decided not to go for the crusher jump. I was like, okay, I've already played my hand here on 8-1. I'm good.
On the other hand, I want to say that I didn't go for any of the most risky stuff. I didn't go for the 2-cycle chandeliers or the book jump, and I took things quite nicely on stage A. But yeah, given those options, I guess that this run was quite solid. Still not enough to beat Anwen, but I am quite satisfied with my performance tonight.
Yeah, thank you for doing the race. I really had fun. I always enjoy racing whip only.
It's always just, nice, yeah.
A nice break from any percent. It's not as stressful, honestly, if you die.
Yeah, totally true. Thank you very much to the SNES Super Stars Marathon for letting us be part of this race, as well as the race last week. It's always a pleasure to be able to showcase this game. As I have always said, the community is really nice, and it's always a pleasure to be part of this.
It is. And I always enjoy all our races, and I appreciate everybody staying here to watch, and I hope you enjoyed it.
Yeah, it was a good watch.
Well said.
I know everyone was having fun watching it. We were talking about what a group of bats was called. Found out it's a colony.
Really?
Yeah.
Huh. Now I know.
Makes sense.
All
Yeah,
right.
so thank you
That's it.
everyone for hanging out with us. I think we are moving on to Super Metroid Reverse Boss Order. That seems pretty hype to me. That seems pretty awesome.
Really good category.
So yeah, stick around, check it out. We love all of you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you as well. Have a nice rest of your Sunday. See you next
Take care.
time.
Yep.